Welcome to Cosmic Compass. Thank you so much for being here. I have a very special guest today, and I'm looking forward to introducing you to her in a few minutes. But as we always do, we are going to start with some breathing and then some cards and a little bit of the astrology. So thank you so much for joining me. If you are new to Cosmic Compass Conversation, thank you so much. It's good to have you here. This is, again, there is a recording, but you won't be seen on the recording. So you can stay on camera if you want to, so we can see your beautiful faces. But again, do whatever you need to do. And everything I suggest, particularly at the beginning, is an invitation, suggestion. Yeah, so here we go. If it's comfortable, if you can join me in closing your eyes. If not, you can just bring your awareness inward. We're just going to take a moment to really, truly connect with ourselves, connect deeply with our bodies. So if it takes a moment to just survey your environment, to feel into where you are right now, and then bring your awareness. A lot of people like to bring their awareness in through their heart. You can bring it in through your third eye. But as you bring your awareness in, let yourself settle into your body and gently and easily bring your awareness down to your solar plexus, to your lower dantian, the sacral area, to your root, and to your hips, your thighs, your knees, your shins, your ankles, your feet, and to the earth. And as we reach the earth, just allowing yourself to honor the earth where you are right now, honoring all those who came before on the land where you are, and dropping, if you feel comfortable, dropping a root down to the center of the earth's energy. And if it's comfortable for you, feeling the support of the earth and your ancestors from all the lands around the globe. And from that place, we're going to do some breathing. So we're going to breathe gently and easily up through the soles of the feet, expanding the belly, exhaling through the mouth, breathing in up through the soles of the feet, feeling the support of the earth, expanding the belly, exhaling when you're ready. Breathing in up through the soles of the feet, feeling that support, expanding your belly. Exhaling when you're ready. And breathing in up through the soles of the feet, feeling the support of the earth, your ancestors, for all those who have come before in the highest and best way, bringing energy to your body. And exhaling when you're ready. I could pretty much stay there all day. When you're ready, come back into the space gently and easily, allowing yourself to just be present here now. And we all have things going on around us, so as present as you can be in this moment. And if you need to at any time, you can just stop and breathe. I mean, breathing. Amber's a big proponent of breathing, so I'm very excited about that. So now I'm going to pull some cards. Interestingly, I did have a different deck. I don't think I've ever used this deck before. Call to me just to pull one card, and then I will pull 3 cards from Chris Ann's tarot deck. So this first deck is a Celtic deck. And so again, when we use tarot on and oracle cards on this Cosmic Compass, I'm really doing it and asking you to deepen into how it feels for you. What do you notice? What's happening for you while you experience the cards? And we'll send more information later in the follow-up newsletter. And if you're not on the newsletter list, the best way to do that is to go to my website, which is DeniseElizabethByron.com. Make sure you get the 2 E's there. It's super fun to do that. You can just go there and you'll get right on the newsletter list. You'll be put right on it and you'll get the follow-up email with all that information. So, all right. So without further ado, we're going to drop in. We know there's a Pisces full moon tomorrow. We know the portal is opening with an eclipse. We know the portal is opening with the equinox. This is a very powerful week. So let's just drop right in. And we're calling this in for the collective. And here we go. These are really interesting cards. So again, I'm not going to say anything about the cards. I'm just going to let you deepen into what you feel. This is called the Bride of the Waters. Okay. So what do you notice? What do you feel? What are the first things that come to you? I have a lot of thoughts on this, but again, I'm just going to let it stand there. You're going to notice it's the number 8. We are still in an 8-year. September always amplifies the number of the year. So for those of you that have joined me for embodying the year, which we did early this year and late last year, you'll know that it's probably a good idea right now to do your figure 8. Right? You can do it now, you can do it later, whatever you want to do. And for those of you, I know a lot of you are tuned into some other wonderful people out there. You can also do the figure 8 on its side, right? You can also do that. Okay. That brings in a lot of healing energy. Now, I also want to just say in terms of the 8-year imbalance, make sure you use both hands. And then if you're really, remember we've tried this, right? If you're really good, you can do them both hands and then switch. Okay, but it takes practice. I've been practicing all year, so there you go. And the idea of the 8-year obviously is balance, but that's all I'm going to say for now. Okay, so now we're going to do the tarot cards, Chris Ann's tarot cards for the week. First one, oh, interesting. I'm just gonna you see what you notice here. I'm not saying anything right away. I will say one thing. Okay, so number 13, death and rebirth. What do you notice? How do you feel? What stands out today? We got this card a couple weeks ago, so apparently we're and I mean, kind of makes sense given the portals that are opening this week. Notice that little infinity there, right there. Okay. Maybe they're on every one. I don't know. We're going to find out, but it was on that one. So I'm like, that's perfect. All right. So for those of you who are not familiar with tarot, I think most people are here, but if you're not, death does not necessarily mean the actual like physical death of a person, but it does mean change. Absolutely means change in some form. Okay. So just moving on with that. Okay. All right. So now we have this next card. And again, you're just looking to see what you notice and how you feel. You've got 4 of Cups. Okay, I did not do that. Well, I mean, it came from my hand, but it's just one of those motions. I must have made a motion. So I like the 4 of Cups, just to go on record. That wasn't me. Well, maybe it was, but anyway. But what do you notice? What do you notice differently this time? What are you noticing here? We've gotten this card before. What do you notice with the colors, the mood, the feel? What kind of story would you make up about the card? You know, your intuition is the best tool. You know, I love her affirmations. So you'll love her affirmations too, I'm sure. But again, using your intuition is the key. All right. And our last card is Now, those of you pretty tuned in are going to notice the Sagittarian symbol pretty much right there. So how do you feel? What do you notice? What is the energy of this card? It's called the Lovers, and I do need to let you know that in the traditional tarot, it doesn't necessarily just mean, a lover. It has everything to do with relationships in general. It's a nice card, though. Got good energy. So again, what do you notice? What do you feel? So when you pull all of these together, what you're getting is a very powerful, we have a very powerful week ahead. So we've got this, 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 and this, right? So keeping in mind that the energy is asking us to just deepen in, right? That's what energy does. And to know that we are being supported. That's the key. I had a wonderful session with a client yesterday, and she said, just tell me all the good, bad, and ugly. And I was like, okay, but just keep in mind that I'm coming from a place of support. So I'll tell you everything completely honest, but this is who I am. I'm coming from this place. So just know that, when I do this read for myself and maybe for the collective, I'm like, there's change, there's shifting, there's letting go, and there's embracing. I mean, pretty straightforward, right? So, but details matter, and you get to fill in those details. So, all right. Well, without further ado, I'm going to spotlight Amber. Thank you so much all for listening. Oh, full moon in Pisces, and then I'll bring Amber on and I'll talk just briefly about the full moon. So the full moon in Pisces, the energy is very emotional. Water moons in general, Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio, always a little emotional, highly sensitive, highly intuitive. There is some Saturn stuff, some Neptune stuff, some Uranus stuff thrown in an eclipse. So breathing is really good. And just, being in your softness, being in your listening, being in your connection to the earth. It's always really good to deepen into the foundation of your own practices, whatever those might be, any day of the week, as it doesn't really matter. But on a full moon in Pisces, I'd say 1,000% more. So, yeah, I'm certain that tomorrow's full moon brings us some unusual news collectively. And what I will say about that is we're still with Jupiter in Gemini, so we want to be curious. Just be curious, stay curious, always stay curious. What is this for me? What is this about? What do I need? What am I learning? What more do I need to know? What less do I need to know? There is a thought. Okay, so there you go. All right, Amber. All right, let me introduce Amber my way, and then Amber, you introduce yourself your way. Okay. So Amber is one of those people who has had a tremendous impact on my life in a very positive way. I've known Amber a long time, and I know we talk about this every time, and I can never remember what year, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was as far back as 2014. I really honestly don't know, but I feel like I've known you a long time. So,
Lifetimes.
and maybe lifetimes, right? Exactly. And so with Amber, what I've had the opportunity to see, and this is how I want to introduce Amber. Amber has always been a powerful healing force in the world, whether she was 2 or however old she is now. There is a energy of authenticity that you will rarely find anywhere else with Amber. And her work is very often with horses and people, but extends from there. So there's a lot that Amber doesn't reveal about herself, which I'm not going to necessarily say, but the woman is very gifted. So whether it's workshops or one-on-one sessions, there is, Amber, you do carry a very powerful connection to source. and a very powerful connection to horses. And I really believe that the horses are wisdom keepers and supporting us in our journey here on this planet, and that you're very tuned in to how we can support the horses and then receive that support, which we're getting anyway. So it's like we're getting it anyway. But and then how we can transform, change individually, how we can transform and change collectively. But then there's this whole other level. Amber's commitment to changing the level of consciousness within the horse industry has been something you've been doing for a very, very, very long time now. And I'm going to now open it up for you to say more about yourself, your background, if you want to, and then we'll just start talking about why we're here today.
Thank you. You know how funny it is that we've talked so long about doing this, but it was just never the right time.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, I will start out by saying that I feel like you are probably you and Rochelle, I would say, are the two that have like witnessed me from the very beginning, because I think that right after my divorce was when I kind of started on this journey, and that was when I fell into Rochelle and then you guys kind of simultaneously. And so I just remember like the first session that we ever had, and it was before COVID, obviously. So I got to be at
Yeah.
your house when people did things in real life.
Yeah. People do
And
things, yeah, in real life.
and the things that you told me about my path and what I was gonna do, it just felt so much bigger than anything my brain could comprehend. And I was just like, oh, okay, well, sure. Sounds great. Sounds great. But now none of that feels too big.
Oh, I have
Um,
chills everywhere.
yeah, and it's sort of what I really crave to do for other people in their own lives, because I feel like that's the kind of support I've had. And by any means, I just keep picking bigger things. So I don't really feel like I like get there. I'm like, oh,
Right.
I'm doing this
You like
other
to
thing now. So
stretch.
I feel
It's
like I'm kind of still at the beginning,
That's
but
in
like
your
not.
astrology. Yeah, you like to, yeah, the Sagittarius in you.
So I feel like now my main purpose is I really crave being more impactful. And the way that I feel like I'm doing that is by collaborating more with other people, because what I didn't have before within the horse world was a place where I could go to have those conversations with other people, because a lot of the trainers were a little bit disconnected from that. And I know Warwick has been a big shift in that space, and I knew Warwick before he was Warwick. So I've watched him transform, and why
Yeah,
I dragged
yeah.
them over, like, no, you have to talk to Denise, where it's like there wasn't that before and there is now. And now that he has had that place, I think it's expanding because his reach is so big. But what I really wanted to do is, most of the impactful experiences I had were not horse related.
Mhm.
And I wanted to bring in the energy of these different events and ceremonies and things that I did. And I wanted to mix it with the trainers that were being conscious,
Right.
because that wasn't happening. And I don't, I mean, at a low level, it is happening. And it's real hard to try to market something like that, because, um, so yeah, I think for now, for me, I feel like if I'm working one-on-one with people, I want to say I'm like a connection coach, like,
Well, I think that can we go a little deeper on
because I
that?
don't know how to describe myself ever.
Well, I think what I would say is that you are a connection guide,
Hmm.
because I think coaches, I mean, I love the word, and yet I feel
I
like,
don't, it makes me feel kind of gross when
okay,
I
well,
say it.
connection
Okay.
guide, connection mentor, but a
Mm-hmm.
connection, connection to oneself,
Hmm.
one's process, one's
Hmm.
path, one's purpose. That is very much what you're doing. And you're offering that, like you said, through various, I mean, Amber has studied a lot of different modalities. So, there's a lot you're like me in that sense. You have your you have your little kit here. You have your little, you know, etheric kit, and you just pull things out as needed,
Hmm.
especially when you're doing your one-on-one sessions.
Hmm.
But this is actually, and I do want to say one follow-up, and then I'm gonna have a segue.
Hmm.
Yes, it is Amber who introduced me to Robin and Warwick in that order. So we are all very, very grateful to you, Amber. And I say this I said it at all the summits, and I'm just very, very happy that you're the one that really started that process for me. And so I'm deeply grateful for that. Um, okay, segging way,
Taking way.
segging way, segue. Something you mentioned about bringing together. You are definitely, we have a word in our household, connectionist is our world, what we say in our world. Connectionist, you definitely bring things together. It's part of your chart is very highly creative. So you're constantly working with that life force energy. And that, because of that, you don't sit still much. Not to say you don't understand stillness, but there is this active movement. You also have the Leo energy in your chart as well. So there is a lot of active movement. And for those of you that are wondering, she also has a super high level of focus. She gets more done in a day than I might get done in a month. And I'm not exaggerating. The woman is amazing in that way.
Yeah, but that only happens in like these blips where like I can't ever force that to happen. I can't be like, I have all this stuff I need to get done.
Yeah.
It has to just all of a sudden be like, I know what to do. And then I go in hardcore for like 48 hours and that's
Well,
gone.
whatever it is, I admire it because it's not something I have. So I'm always just like, wow, that's amazing. Anyway, but bringing it back to here and what it is that you are here, and this is the thing, Amber, you're so here to be of service. And that's why I'm thinking guide. That's why I'm thinking you're bringing things together and collaboration. This is the energy of Pluto going into Aquarius. So Amber, one of the things you're doing right now by setting up the Equine Alchemy event, right, is you're setting the stage for the next 20 years of our collective life. Everything you're doing, and we're going to talk about what is it she's doing, but everything you're doing there is our advent into the next big evolutionary chapter. It is, I look at the cards and I look at the death and rebirth card. This is where we're at in our collective astrology right now, is that there are things we need to close and complete and decide, what am I bringing with me? And then we're moving into the future. So your event, which we'll get into the details now, this event is in October. It is poised to be a gateway between what we've had in terms of our awareness, how we are moving in the world, where we are on our own journeys, and where we are collectively. It is poised to be this portal, this gateway into the next chapter. Pluto will head into Aquarius full time in November. So you're right there. And we talked about there's a full moon in there right at the beginning, which is very powerful. It's the full moon that is the beginning full moon. It's an Aries full moon. So there's a lot of energy there, allowing for advocacy, allowing for this very powerful creative energy of leadership. So all of that is setting the stage for what you have to offer. So why don't you tell us what you're doing?
I was like, wow, I'm glad I picked that date.
Yeah, me
How perfect.
too.
And normally I would have asked you, but I just picked it because it was the only one that was available at that venue. So it
Well,
was
we have
ideal.
to trust the universe. Even if it
Yeah.
wasn't that date, there's always ways to work it. It just so happens to stand very much in that portal energy. So,
Yeah. I feel like I wanted to be able to expand on what I had done. So for the last year and a half, I had done smaller versions of this where I got given the vision to do this after I myself was at an expo as a presenter. And my clients, I will say, firmly nudged me to do what I do rather than to slip back into horse trainer mode because I knew what people expected expos is to go watch someone do horse training things so they could go home and train their horse. And I wanted to do that just so that I could just do something I was definitely comfortable with. And at the time, I had just started doing meditating with your horse, where I would do live events where people come sit in chairs. There's music, guided meditation, breathing, journaling. So most of the time there was a fire. We were burning things.
Right.
And while I did not do that at the expo, they were like, no, you have to come do that here in front of people. And I was like, that's ridiculous. That is too uncertain. There are too many variables. Are people going to be able to drop in front of an audience? Like, how could I possibly? I did it anyways, and it was great. I say all that to say, when on the off time, I hadn't been out in the real world in a while as far as horse training land, because I was just training privately in my own barn. And so the culture that we have here is very different from boarding stables and other experiences. And when I went back out into the real world to watch several trainers, that people are like, oh, we're so excited, and we ventured out to those and watched those. With at least amount of judgment as I could possibly use. Like, we were horrified because the understanding of horses' nervous systems, the way things can look, was so far from what we were witnessing. And these are people that are highly influential, and crowds of people oohing and awing and clapping for something that was like, this is actually pretty abusive and disturbing, and I can't watch this anymore.
Mhm.
And to say I didn't do it that way for many years is why I know that I can say it without judgment, because people honestly don't know. And that's the piece where I have so many connections with trainers who understand the body, who understand the nervous system, who understand the people component, that there isn't a place where all of them were gathering to
Mhm.
actually then show what it looks like in real time and how someone could do that. And so my smaller version was Elements of Connection, which is just me and four other, and actually that's a lie, five, there's five of us, where Shaylee and I, who she's my friend, business partner,
Shaylee
and we
Evans,
have,
for those of you who don't know,
yeah.
yes.
She's a communicator, and we have a podcast together and a membership. And so we create a container in the beginning, at the end, for the people. And then we have Celeste Lazares, Tara Davis, and Catherine Lowry come in. And each day is, first is like the horse's body. The second day is the human's body.
Mhm.
And then Tara comes in like Mary Poppins and like puts it all together. And so it's a smaller event, but it's very thorough. And I feel like it was a practice for me to be able to coordinate and put all this stuff together. And so we did that, and people are still connected. People are still talking about how it completely changed their lives. And so I was like, okay, it's time. It's time to do the big one.
Yeah.
And in my head, it was gonna be so much easier than it has been, not in like a negative way, but in a, it's like when you ask for that bigger thing in the expansion of the universe, it's like, okay, here you go, here's all the lessons. And so it's been a wild ride. So the event itself is set up more like an expo, in the way that you're not in these smaller intimate groups, which is actually going to probably be a fairly intimate event. So this is just the first one for sure. So if anyone is actually considering, this would be the one to go to, because you are going to get the most one-on-one time with all of the presenters. But
That is a really good point, actually.
mhm,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's set up in a way where you are the audience, and you are witnessing the transformations of the presenters working with the horses like an expo. But I wanted to bring in the component of the transformations for the people just watching, which is what I always received at non-horse events.
Right.
And this is where I'm pulling in all the things. So when you do purchase a ticket, you get an online thing to take you through these three steps of transformation personally first. So
Yes.
when you arrive at the event, you are already prepared and in a space where you're like, oh, this is what I'm actually watching. This isn't just someone having this shift out in the arena. Like, you're able to understand the language, understand the process before you get there, so that you can go deeper once you're there. And you can draw the parallels when you're watching the person out in the arena and go, oh,
Mhm.
that is totally like me.
Mhm.
And then you can create that new story for yourself and your horse and whoever else in your life. Because I always say the horses are, yes, they are the wisdom keepers. And I feel like I'm sort of a translator for them most of the time, because,
Oh, that's a good word for you.
okay, write it down, write it down.
I am. I am.
And so it's like, a lot of times our old stories, our beliefs about ourselves, who we think we are, who our identity is, we use the people in our lives, the situations in our lives, the horses in our lives to reaffirm that to us. See,
Mhm.
this is how it always is. This is who I am, and this is why I have what I have. And really, what the horses are trying to tell us sometimes aren't being received because there are a lot of people in our community that are givers. We don't have a lot of people that are like, how can I get more from my horse? It's like, how can I give more to my horse? I'm like, well, you can give as much as you can receive,
Yeah.
and there's not a lot of most of our clients are women, and they're very much nurturing and they're wanting to like do all the things when it's like, yeah, but like what about you? And, for you to be able to receive the messages, you have to be in a different energy. For you to be able to receive what they're trying to share with you, you have to be willing to have a relationship with them that is reciprocity versus I'm just doing and doing and doing for them. And they're like, well, what about us? We
Right.
want to do too, and so we have these soul contracts with them that we're pulling in these lessons. And if we can't hear them, then, we're cutting everything short. So I wanted to be able to clear out the humans as well as let them draw parallels and then see in real time what the presenters are doing because I feel like in horsemanship land, there is a box that everyone is put in, and there are certain ways you can do it, and you're told this is the way it is. And a lot of people are like, well, it doesn't really feel right and it's getting the job done,
Mhm.
but it's never sustainable in their physical bodies. So when horses start to break down, it's because they are holding on to all of this tension and stress and the trauma that is actually, in fact, what natural horsemanship is. It's like you're restraining them, you're adding stress, and you're not letting their body do what it needs to do to release it. And my most profound moment, I think, on this journey was when I was listening to Dr. Joe Dispenza, and it was for the first time that I really understood the nervous system and how trauma was put in. And I was like, oh, fuck, that's how I train horses. Like I'm doing that actively every day, and I don't think I ever was abusive per se. I was never sending them so far over threshold
Yeah.
that they couldn't return. But it was like it was beyond stretching their capacity to hold stress for sure. Because that's
Yeah.
what I feel like I do now, where that was just like shutting them down or not giving them an option, and they would go into the fawn response and just go, okay, fine, this is great. So that moment that I understood that, I was like, oh, well, if people knew that's what was happening, but actually, there would be a bigger shift in the conversations. And I feel like I said, there are more people talking about it, but
Mhm.
there's such a vast majority of people that are so stuck in, nope, this is horse trading. This is what it looks like. They have to respect you. They can hurt you. They can, when
Mhm.
I'm like, they can do all that. And also you can maintain the integrity in the relationship and still go show and have a horse that's sound until they're 30 versus 10 because you're not doing it in a way that it's, causing this amount of tension and stress to be put on their physical body.
Right.
So it is very 3D in like horsemanship land, but then also there's this whole other part where when you drop in, you're like, oh, and then they told me,
Yes. Well,
you know.
can I just jump in here because there's so much richness in what you shared. And I mean, I would just encourage all of us to go back and listen to this again because what is here, Amber, is you're living and bringing together other trainers who are living the spirituality of horsemanship. So I think we've actually gone into another realm. So there's conscious horsemanship, which is, and I know that that's part of what this is, but I think that there's this spirituality
Mhm,
of horsemanship
mhm,
or horsewomanship, depending on, no one ever says that, but I might start using that phrase. Um, Going there. And that idea of the evolution of the soul, the evolution of the planet, and the connection between human and other being, in this case, horse
mhm,
and the divine connection. You're very upfront about bringing in and you said this, the process of transformation. How does one, and there are ways to do that I mean, that they're scientifically backed up.
mhm. Yeah.
So there is a science element to this that's very clear. And one thing I love about you, and I know Shaylee, I don't know the other people there, but I know the two of you, and I know have invited some very powerful people. The understanding of the human system and the horse system is extraordinarily well covered,
Mhm,
just between you and Shaylee. But I mean,
mhm,
when you add in these other people, it's like, whoa, we are talking about people who live every single day in a spiritual connected relationship with their horses, the land, and other humans as much as possible.
Mhm.
This is like another realm, in my
It
opinion.
is.
So in some ways, we came up with the word translator, that you are very much a translator.
Mhm.
And I will also say, I think your work is a bridge. So we have what we might call traditional, then we have conscious horsemanship, which is fabulous, and we are excited about all of this. And then I think we have you,
Mhm.
with I think is an evolution. It's another way of deepening your consciousness by fully living it yourself and
Mhm.
bringing it into connection with your horse, but also with your community and so forth. So it makes sense that you've brought in some very powerful people in addition to yourself. I'd like to talk about collaboration just for a moment so people understand, you know, because it's interesting. In the horse world, there's a competition element to much of what I've heard and seen. Um, I've also noticed there's a very strong community element, like the community is strong.
Mhm.
Collaboration, what does that feel like and look like for you? Because that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, it feels like I want to be able to have people witness what that actually is because, like you said, there is a lot of competition, especially with women in general, but then in the horse world, competition between trainers, etc. And I feel like there is this space where each of these women are horse trainers. Like
Mhm,
they can go train a horse, and every one of them has come from a place of that traditional space. So they've lived that, and
mhm,
then also had the moments where they were completely broken down and couldn't. And that's something that's a theme between all of us, where we have had that moment in our life where like we absolutely cannot do this anymore,
mhm,
whether it was like a personal change in our life. And so when we talk about the three stages of alchemy of transformation within this event, it's the first one is the fire, where it's like this was my dark night of the soul. This is where everything that was old that had been told to me that
mhm,
is and was, or every story that I've created on my own, whatever that looks like, is now burnt to the ground.
mhm,
And that is stopping everything. Some of them walked away from horses completely, and and so the collaboration piece is like doing that on an individual level is
mhm,
fine because we all did it. But what everyone said is, wow, if I knew there were other people going through this with me, then I
mhm,
wouldn't have, first of all, it wouldn't have taken so long. Second of all, I wouldn't have thought there was something wrong with me
mhm.
for having to have all this struggle.
Yeah.
And then to be able to show people that there is so much power in, we all say sort of the same thing, but very differently. And I think people receive information that way as well. So to be able to have, six people all very aligned with that foundational core values within what we're doing with the horses, but coming at it from every different direction,
Yeah.
um, is why it will land for people. And I don't have to worry about any of them like going off the rails or saying something crazy and like doing something wild to a horse out in front of, because you don't know. Um, so that piece of collaborating with them is that I know that when I've gone to events, the same thing is sort of happening, but Celeste focusing on the body of the horse and the connection. Each one had deeply, deeply rooted in connection. So she's connecting through the body of the horse, where Tara's connecting. She is very much in fairy, like she's very spiritual. She's just like, and when you watch her, it's like magic. She tells you why it's happening and she gives you steps on how to make it happen, but it is like watching magic. She doesn't, and then we have Ellie, who is coming from New Zealand, who is dove deep into her own heritage and her ancestors and the land, and her being able to pull in the importance of all that and how it connects in with the horses. And then Dana, who is very into the conscious horsemanship, where she's still training horses, and she's out there functioning. She says it's functional, functional woo and conscious do or something like
I
it. So
love
she's, I
that.
know
That's
she's so funny.
great. Okay.
So yeah, and so just bringing them all together and being
Yeah.
able to have it land for everyone,
Mhm.
in some way, knowing that they're going to be able to receive it.
Yeah, this is a very experiential, event. It is a retreat in many ways, because you're creating a container. And this is something I've learned too. The strong container makes a difference. It really does. And
Yeah.
you will be outside. Is that correct? Will you be outside or
Hmm.
inside? Okay,
Yeah,
so
we're
you'll be
outside.
outside. So the natural elements are present. It's in Carmel Valley or Carmel?
Carmel Valley. And well, you know what's fun is that my connection to the venue, she just said, well, I have a connection to the tribe that's local. So if you want them to come do an opening blessing before the event, I was like, yeah, I don't know if that's happening. She just asked me yesterday and I was like, yes.
Yeah. Oh
Absolutely.
my gosh,
But
that's
the
so
land itself
cool.
there it's beautiful. It's just all oak trees. The weather there is like perfect. You can smell the ocean, which I need.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so the land itself, the venue is
Yeah, and so
amazing.
that makes a huge difference when you're bringing things together. I want to go back and just talk about collaboration. I'm gonna put my 2 cents in here about competition versus collaboration. Competition between women is a patriarchal mechanism.
Mm,
There in the early, and I'm talking 10,000 years ago, right? In the matriarchal cultures, there was not competition between women. That wasn't how it worked. The element of competition that we see now has been forged over many years in order for there to be, right? What is the best way to have control over is to create divisiveness, divide and conquer, we hear very often. So this idea of competition um, is a patriarchal mechanism. So by reclaiming collaboration of any kind, but any kind, whether it doesn't all just have to be women, this just happens to be a powerful group of women, by reclaiming collaboration, there's a sense of moving back to source, because source is not competitive. Source is replenishing and nurturing and opening and expansive and stretching, healthy. What is healthy competition? So then that can be fun, right?
mhm.
Healthy competition is actually designed in the spirit of collaboration. So what you're doing is you're taking an old model and you're saying, buy old model, and you're bringing in the new energy. And that is Pluto in Aquarius. That is where we're headed. So again, here you are serving as a bridge, a translator, a portal for what's been to what will be, or what we need. If we're going to do this well, we need more of what you're creating. So I have chills everywhere when I think about this gathering of powerful women, and like you said, who have walked through their fire, who have had that huge, like, I can't do this anymore ever again, and bring that learning and that level of competency to an event that is unlike any other event that has been held ever. This is unique in and of itself. So I agree with you. This is the time. This will be the smallest it will ever be, which, again, what does that mean? It means that there's more one-on-one, there's more connection available. That doesn't mean though, so let's not limit the universe, Amber. That does not mean that the energy of a group of 500 people can't feel intimate.
Mhm.
You've been to things which
Oh
we will
yeah.
not discuss. We will not discuss those because we are focusing on your event. But you have been to things that are thousands of people, and
Mhm.
you can find the intimacy in
Mhm.
those. And a good facilitator will allow for the spirit of everything to create that coherence. We talk about heart math. We had Kansas on
Mhm.
um, last week. And so again, with tools like heart math and other spiritual tools that have a scientific base, by the way, just putting it out there, there's a coherence that started. When I start every Cosmic Compass conversation with breathing, what we're doing is we're creating a level of coherence together. Now, you can't hear each other, but this is a tool that I learned from one of my teachers who is a Lemurian Huna. She is a kahuna from Hawaii. She is Hawaiian. And breathing is how the kahunas would gather. When the kahunas would come together, they would breathe. They might breathe for 3 days, and that's all they might do until there was coherence.
Mhm.
So setting it up is so important, and that's what you all are doing. I mean, this is a phenomenal event. So for those of you that, I mean, and this is a thing. So I have a question. This is a practical question.
Mhm.
Do some people bring their horses? Does anyone bring their horses? How does this work? How does this work?
Yeah, we had an application sent out to we just shared it a bunch. So we have five five of the presenters will be working with the horses one-on-one for hour-long presentations.
Mhm,
And so yes, there will be horse and people out there for two
mhm,
days.
mhm.
Shaylee and I will open up with ceremony, connecting people with the theme of the day. And there's also, I won't say homework, but there's the
Well,
first day. The first day.
there's living into what you're learning. How about you call it living into learning?
Living work.
Yeah.
Uh, but there will be a giant cauldron,
There,
which
a real one, by the way, people.
the
This
real, yeah, it's real.
she's not joking. It's like a
No,
real
it's
one.
actually so
Yeah.
happy about that.
Yeah.
Um, where you come with the old stories, the old beliefs that you're ready to just release. Like I want to be open and curious to like what could be from this weekend. So, opening it up, creating the container, having each presenter go work one-on-one with the horse that they have, so you get to witness that. They are also going to pull the audience into that, into the session, into the work that they're doing. We have lunch, and then after lunch, we have Catherine who does human biomechanics. So she's going to take everybody through an entire thing through your body, which every time she does this is wild. Um, and then, a couple more presenters. It is very much set up to be able to connect because I know a lot of horse people are sometimes introverted and they're like, oh,
Yeah.
like I'm going to
Very
this
highly
event and this is
sensitive people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, after the first night, we have food coming and we're going to stay at the venue. There's going to be music. There's going to be a lot of hangout.
Fun.
There's vendors with cool stuff. So it's set up to bring people together, in community so that people feel supported and they feel like they can connect with new people. And when they go home, that can continue to expand and they can still get support once they go home too, which is important to me.
Yes. It's vital, actually.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And any sort of life-changing event, I think having support post-event is
Hmm.
as important as the event itself.
Hmm.
So I'm imagining that, I mean, this is a thing. You and Shaylee already have a very strong supportive container, and anybody can join that membership at any time, right?
Hmm.
Is that
Hmm.
true?
Yeah.
Am I right?
Hmm.
Okay. So can you put in the chat how they might find you and that membership? Is it
Oh
just your
yeah.
website or is it?
They can go on my website. It's on there, or there's an actual link to the page that gives
Okay.
it the details. But I'll
Okay.
just put my website
Okay.
um first, and then yeah, the
Okay.
membership. It's the podcast is Tea Time with Shaylee and Amber. The membership is the Tea House.
Yeah. And they're spilling tea. They're definitely spilling tea and talking.
We're changing
Are you?
our monthly tea party is what we used to call it, to
Yeah.
something very different. It used to
Winner.
be just like a question and answer
Yeah.
hangout. And we were actually walking down the strip of Vegas, getting downloads about what the new model would look like. And it's very much into the communication realm. It's very much connecting. It's going to be wild. It's very somatic-y and also what Shaylee does. So we're smashing the two together.
I love it.
So that'll be
And
fun.
so the podcast, the membership group, and so having post-event follow-up, and this is the thing, like you have pre-event
Hmm.
stuff,
Yeah.
which is great. And that is super helpful. And then post-event, do you have a sense of already what that can look like or already?
Yeah. We have the Facebook group that has already started that you join. The pre-work in the actual modules that you
Mhm,
get once you sign up with a ticket.
mhm,
And then post is most likely going to be maybe like a couple meetups on Zoom. That once everyone has sort of gotten home, the integration is always hard for people. And I think for people that haven't done a lot of events like this where you're actually making shifts, it's much bigger than just an expo. It's like you're going and all these things are happening. You get home and you're like set back into the real world. And you're like, oh, I've just spent all this time with these people that understand me. Now I'm out here and
Well, so I have to say, yeah, so just from my experience going to the summit in Birmingham,
Mm-hmm.
I heard from a lot of people that it was like, wow, now I'm home And I have this very powerful knowing that I've returned home with, but now what do I do? Like,
Mhm.
how do I implement and integrate? So I
Yeah.
think that that is an extraordinarily important and vital component. And
Mhm.
people are in good hands with you and Shaylee, I think. And I don't know how else it works with the other presenters, but I have no doubt that there is a supportive container here that is,
Mhm.
again, I think unique in its form. And
Mhm.
um, I think also very much about leading us into what we're going to need into the future. And I know I've said
Mhm.
that a number of times, but it's because I am very passionate about how this happens. It takes, you've talked a little bit about the personal stretch, like going for your dreams. And I remember when we were talking about this last year, and it is scary to stretch this big and to open up to something that is really, honestly, I think, a new blueprint for how we can do things,
Mhm.
whether we're horse people or not. I think creating a container like this and doing the collaboration is extraordinarily important. So your own personal journey, your own personal stretch
Mhm.
is a part of this as well.
For
And so,
sure.
yeah. And so I have the utmost respect for that because you're following your own astrology,
Great.
and that's the thing. So, Amber has agreed. Amber, Amber has agreed that I'm not going to bring her, chart up on the screen, but she has agreed that I can share a little bit about it. So here's what I'm going to say, because I'm very excited. So for you, Amber, Pluto is sitting right. I mean, for everybody, Pluto is sitting at the end of Capricorn, 29 degrees. Okay. Pluto has been transiting your house of health, work, and service um, since around 2009, 2010.
That's all.
So evolution, change, death, and rebirth. Can I can I just say that it's possible that since 2010 you have you've rebirthed yourself several times since that point?
Yeah, for sure, but 2010 was actually when I stopped working. I was a trainer for the police department for the horse unit, and
Mhm.
that's actually the last year that I trained there, and then went back out on my own, and I think that's really when things started to change.
So here you are. So Pluto at the end of Capricorn says to you, Amber, well done. Here are the things you've learned. Here's how much you've changed. What are you going to take with you
Mhm.
into the new era? And then that new era for you, you're going to love this.
Mhm.
Pluto's going to go right into your partnership area. And partnership is not just the lovers. It's not just the lovers. But it is relationship in that way, but it is also partnering, collaborating with business partners as well.
Mhm.
So you get to take basically 14 years of evolution into this next era.
Mhm.
So how does that feel?
You know what's so weird? Not weird, is that's very much aligned with the 3 steps that we put into the portal, where it's the fire, and then it's the sifting through the ashes, and then finding what's left, which is what's true to you, and then the 3rd piece is, the integration of, this is what it looks like now that without all that.
Well, fancy that. You're listening to the universe and really following the invitation. So thank you for that feedback. We're so happy to have you here. Yay. So being able to move into the next era with what you've learned about health, work, and service, personally and professionally. This is a moment in time where you are stepping onto that bigger stage, if you will. And I really want to honor you for what you are stretching into.
Mm. Mhm.
You could have waited till next year when Pluto was fully into Aquarius, But I'm glad you didn't, because this serves as a reminder that that anyone can take a step through this portal, that anyone at any phase in their own journey with their horse, with themselves, can step in. So yeah, do you want to say more about that?
No, it just feels very true.
Hmm.
That piece
Yeah.
of, I know every time I'm going to do a thing, whether it's online or a in-person event, it's like whatever we're supposed to teach, we have to get the lessons. And I feel like I'm fully living in the lessons of what I am going to carry through for the people that come to the event and anything I do and forward. So yeah, it's been a little rocky, but it's been great. It's fine. And I do feel like actually just several days ago, the energy of it shifted where it was like, oh, it's going to be amazing. I'm super excited and not stressed. It's gonna go
Good.
because everyone else
Yay.
seems to be so confident. Everyone I talk to is like, ah, this is easy. It's going to be so great. I'm like, okay, okay, that's good. I'm like, glad you're all so certain.
One of the things, I've been a presenter at a collaborative conference in the past. Rochelle and I actually roomed together that
Mhm,
time. And what I feel like happens is this connection of holding the container together. So no
mhm,
one person is shouldering the responsibility just themselves. And again, that harkens back to early matriarchal cultures where it was a generative experience for everyone, and that everyone was participating at the capacity they could. And so if someone was, so again, like in anything, when someone is presenting and they're there, the rest of the group holds a space and handles issues or whatever might be going on here, so that person can be fully in their joy and in
mhm,
their service to
mhm,
others. So it is, again, it's a model that works, because you're all coming from this place of having gone through an evolutionary process, gone through the fires of transformation, walked the path, and you're there not to say, oh, hey, we're great, but oh, hey, you're great, and you
mhm,
can do this too.
mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
that's the spirit in which it's being offered, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And every one of the presenters is so in that space. They're so humble and they're so freaking badass together simultaneously. Like you can find people there are people out there like that. So
Yeah.
that's why it's cool that they're all together.
Yeah. I mean, we have a couple people here who will be attending, and they're already like, they're like, I want to be there right now. So let's do practical details, dates.
October 18th through 20th. There is a full immersion extra add-on day, which I think is actually almost sold out on the 17th.
That's the full
Where
moon in Aries, in case anyone's
yeah,
curious. Yeah.
yeah, Shaylee and I, we're gonna start at 3 and we're gonna do a ceremony for 3 hours, and then we're gonna have a cocktail hour and a catered dinner with the presenters.
Mhm.
So that you get to dive a little deeper with them and hang out more and get some one-on-one time. That actually sold faster, and
Well,
I think there's only like three spots left
okay.
for that. So and then the main stuff is the 18th through the 20th.
Mhm.
So
So
the
Friday, Saturday, Sunday,
Mhm.
all day.
Yeah, and Sunday's a half day. Sunday is not presentations. There's a live Q&A panel
Oh,
with all the
nice.
presenters. So breakfast, and then we all get to hang out under the oak trees, and you get to ask all
Oh,
the questions that you've had over the we'll have a
wow.
question box throughout the entire weekend. So if there's actually something you're like, oh, I really wanted to ask this question, you
Mhm.
won't forget. You can write it down and it'll get addressed on Sunday. So
Fabulous. All right. Now, registration details. Is there an application, or is it a just you go ahead and register?
you can just register.
Okay.
There's a sales page for that. There's an event. I have a Facebook is tricky, so you can't just post the events sometimes. So there is an event page that keeps getting updated that you can put interested in, and then the
Okay.
actual sales page for ticket sales is within that,
Got it.
tucked in there.
Okay. And it's also on your website. There's a
Mhm.
connection. There's a way to get there as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So, anything else? Words of wisdom from Amber today.
I think the biggest thing that I'm learning through this process is the amount of support that I have around me to make this happen is what I want for everyone joining. I
Oh,
have
that makes
had
me want to cry.
I have had moments where I'm like, look, Like, I'm canceling. I'm canceling. I'm not going to do this. Like, I can't tell you how many moments I've had where like this is not happening. I cannot do this. Like, I don't want to fail you guys. I don't want to disappoint the people who have signed up. I'm refunding money. Like, and they've been like, smack. None of them, even the girls coming from Germany and New Zealand, the two
Yeah,
presenters,
yeah.
were ever like, oh gosh, wait a minute. Are we okay? They were like, you're fine. We're fine. Everything is fine. And I'm like, oh, okay. Okay,
It's
good.
going
So
to be amazing.
yeah, and so I think what people don't understand when they're doing things big or small, it's like you're supposed to have those moments and then you keep going.
Yes. Well, it's
So,
called the fires of transformation.
yes.
It's a
So
process. Apparently, there's someone who knows a little bit about that.
it's because I'm in it right now.
Exactly.
I'm actively
Exactly.
teaching it because I'm in it. So yeah, so I think
As
it's
it
that piece
is.
of just keep going. Just keep
Exactly.
going.
Well, good. And so this is getting posted on YouTube. I will post the links below so people can find you. And
Cool.
thank you so much for being
Mm,
here. I'm so happy. I'm
I
so
know.
excited for you. And yeah, it is a very powerful experience awaiting those who are able to join this year
Hmm.
for
Yeah.
sure. Okay.
Yeah. It's
I'm
gonna be
going to turn
great.
off the recording now.